I am a roving gambler. I've gambled down in town. Wherever I meet with a deck of cards, I lay my money down. Lay my money down. Lay my money down.
The Everly Brothers were an American singing duo, and they were Don Everly and Phil Everly, and they were genuinely brothers. They started singing with their parents in the 1940s whilst they were still at school, billed as the Everly family. They went to Nashville in the late 50s, got a contract, started doing concerts and making records. They lost some popularity in the 60s in the US, but retained some in other parts of the world, including the UK. They had a break from 1973 to 1983 from each other, but they were still doing solo stuff, and they got back together, and they have done solo stuff apparently all through their active careers from 1951 onwards. Phil died in 2007, Don died in 2018, and as a duo they have had 21 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the second studio album by the Everly Brothers. It's my first time listening to it, and if anybody knows anything about the Everly Brothers, it's that they sing in close harmony. So this is close harmony folk with a gentle country leaning, I would say. So obviously there's two voices, the two brothers, and there's acoustic guitars and an acoustic bass, which is, I'm not sure it's there all the time, but it's certainly pretty low in the mix when it is. I occasionally detected it. I think that these are genuinely songs that they were taught by their daddy. They used to have a radio show as a family, and were, most definitely a musical family. The best thing on this album for me is definitely, well, two things. The best things are the close harmony, which is something that they do, it's their thing. And the simplicity of this album is quite nice. It's quite brave at this point in time, I think, to do an album like this. So it's somewhat ahead of the folk revival that happened in America at the turn of the 60s, but not by much. So maybe the timing was right for something like this. It's also kind of early in their album career, although they probably didn't know that at the time. And it's definitely all about the songs. So uh, I knew one song pretty well, which was Who's Gonna Shoe Your Pretty Little Feet, which I know as part of the song that became Reuben, that a couple of people have done much later on. And I also kind of knew John Henry, but I've heard all sorts of versions of that song. And some of them, very varied from this. Generally, the songs are about gamblers and fathers and loves and dead and dying people and old people and basically it's about emotions. There are two, to my mind, overly emotive songs on this album. So the first is "I'm Here to Get My Baby Out of Jail," and the other one is "Lightning Express," which doesn't sound quite so bad from the title here. This was originally written apparently as "Please, Mr. Conductor, don't put me off the train." And it's a sad song about a boy going home to see his mother who's dying, and is kind of it's. So I'd say it's not quite in the league of Deck of Cards or not or No Charge, but it's getting close. It's definitely pushing to. Oh, it's so sad and emotive. Um, so generally, otherwise, I found it to be okay. I found Lightning Express particularly to be a bit too much. Generally, I found that it was palatable, but not hugely exciting. I think maybe some of this is that I don't feel a huge kind of kinship for uh, as much for traditional American folk as I do for traditional British folk, especially Celtic folk. If you're really into your American folk and your Americana roots, this really could be an album that you think is really important or that you really love and enjoy. for me, it was kind of, yeah, it was okay. And there was a couple of bits that would just put me off a bit. So, not a hugely positive response from me, but still on the positive side, I would say. So that's what I think. I'd love to know what you think. So please do leave me a comment. And that's it from me for now.
The lightning express from the depot so grand had started out on its way. All